What if there was no tomorrow? What if you kept reliving the same day over and over again? Free of consequences but unable to move on, how would someone respond to such a thing? These are the questions at the heart of the 1993 Harold Ramis and Bill Murray classic Groundhog Day. The film has since become one of the best comedies of all time and before long would become the basis for an entirely new genre of film. Join us on this episode of Script or Screen as we take a look at this fantastic film and the legacy it left behind. What if there was no tomorrow? What if you kept reliving the same day over and over again? Free of consequences but unable to move on, how would someone respond to such a thing? These are the questions at the heart of the 1993 Harold Ramis and Bill Murray classic Groundhog Day. Has since become one of the best comedies of all time, and before long, I'm just kidding. You're not in a time loop, ladies and gentlemen. It's the next episode of Script or Screen.
The newest episode.
I am one of your hosts, Zach Strackman. Joining with me, as always, is my co-host.
What's the character's name?
I don't know. It's Chris Kitchen.
Ned Ryerson.
Ned Ryerson.
Ryerson. I don't know why I said I read
Chris
that as
Kitchen.
Ryerson. It is
Chris Kitchen in the studio. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for the applause. Thank you. You're too kind.
That's me. I'm here.
So we're back. We're back for another exciting episode of Script or Screen, coming to you live in front of a studio audience.
Well, actually, I am in front of an audience. My doggy dog.
Aw, Iggle.
Mr. Iggy Piggy himself is napping right by my feet. I'm alone in my apartment, and I didn't want him to be closed outside of the room I was in. And so
that is both heartwarming and sad.
I know. Well, you know.
So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us today. If you like to know more about Script or Screen, or you want to see more of our content, hear more of our content, you can't really see a podcast, but you can find us at scriptorscreen.com. Isn't that right?
That is correct. You could also find us at anchor.fm/scriptorscreen. You could check out our social media pages like Facebook.
Which social media page?
Well, all right, when we get back in sync, I'm talking Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Don't forget, give us a like, give us a follow, share us with your friends, send us a comment, a little nice message, send us a mean message. I would love to see what a mean message were to be from somebody.
It'd be like, Chris, I bet Iggy is a bad boy.
Oh,
not a good boy.
Oh, no, he's a good boy. You could say the goodest of boys.
He's up there.
He's a swell pup.
So, how's everything going? We're currently recording this in the last week of January. It's already the last week of January. Can you believe that?
I felt like the year just still began in a way. I carry the new year with me into March, I feel like, because I feel, after then, April kind of dwindles away, and May, and then you're already July, 4th of July comes around, and it's like, oh, when's Christmas? I don't know.
Yep, and soon enough it's there.
There you go. But generally speaking, life's going pretty good right now. The work ahead is there. I can see it versus last year. It was interrupted, and I couldn't see it, but I am once again gainfully employed in my wonderful industry. And, there's a lot to look forward to this year. This 2021.
You love to see it, folks. You really do.
I do.
That's really great.
How about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, like I've said it before, I am one of the people who was had the good fortune to not lose my job over quarantine. So I haven't seen as much of a disruption to my life and everything as other people. But so far the new year has been good. I've been doing I know I kind of made the New Year's resolution to write more, and I am, in the sense that I am basically just getting all of my writing facts and details ready to go, so that way I can just kind of like charge out of the gate, Yeah. But I'm really enjoying the stuff I'm kind of like reevaluating some of my writing, and it's actually coming up with a lot of really fun ideas that maybe one day I will share with our lovely listeners, but it is not this day.
You know, you make me think. I didn't even talk about my my New Year's resolution. I don't think we talked about it on the last 2 episodes either. Or
what was your New Year's resolution?
Well, last year it was. I feel like every year I try to do something kind of health oriented, like physical health. Versus this year, it's more of like my wonderful, lovely partner and I. We decided that this year we would try to really declutter our lives and throw some stuff out, give things away, and just try to have less stuff. Because it seems that after 5 years being together, we've accumulated lots of things. I went from moving out of my parents' place with just a car full of things to now I needed like a storage unit at one point and all this other stuff, and it got a little out of hand.
Sometimes a nice purge is in order.
Dude, I woke up this morning.
Specifically with regards to cleaning your house, people should not be purging each other in the streets.
That is true, but I'll tell you what I did. I mean, I think I went through a lot of my clothes in the last couple of weeks, and I got rid of a bunch of stuff. But even today, I opened up my drawers, and I'm thinking like, oh wow, I could give all this away too. So I mean, I think I got the right head on my shoulders right now, and it's going pretty well, if I say so myself.
That is really good to hear. Yeah, it's new year, new us, right?
I think that's what I saw on I think it was Facebook the other day. Someone made a post that said "New Year, new meme," and I'm like, yes, this is quality content.
Absolutely. Right now, everyone's riding high on that Bernie Sanders meme,
and with his mittens. My dad actually sent me a template. He's like, "Can you put Bernie Sanders on this photo for me?" As of the recording of this podcast, I've yet to do it, and he sent me that text maybe 5 days ago. But I will. God. I will, Papa. I promise.
Yeah, New Year, new memes. I also like New Year, slightly marginally better me.
Yeah.
But, that's good. Hey, self-improvement is the name of the game for today's episode, because we are covering the classic film Groundhog Day, probably one of the best comedies ever made.
Says a lot of people, apparently.
You seem to be hinting at kind of a controversial hot take from the desks of Script or Screen.
Well, why don't you start? Why don't you start off with our our every episode question, which is the question of the period.
Chris, have you seen Groundhog Day before this episode?
No.
You are an embarrassment to cinephiles everywhere, and you should be ashamed. Why don't you start us off with the synopsis?
I don't feel that way. How is this my fault? Let's see. Where's my synopsis handy? So this time I'm getting a synopsis from. I usually stick with like the Wikipedia or like the IMDb. Instead, I'm taking the synopsis from one Rotten Tomatoes, Groundhog Day, and it says Phil, as played by Bill Murray, a weatherman, is out to cover the annual emergence of the groundhog from its hole. He gets caught into a blizzard that he didn't predict and finds himself trapped in a time warp. He is doomed to relive the same day over and over again until he gets it right. How was that?
That's pretty good. It's funny because you mentioned like the emergence of the groundhog from its hole. Apparently, this movie, I only learned this from, of all places, a Cinefix video from years ago where they talk about like different things, and this movie actually had to be marketed under different names depending on where it was released, because most people outside the United States do not know what Groundhog Day is or the significance. So,
oh wow.
Yeah, so it's just one of those things. Groundhog Day, a very American celebration.
Yeah, I'll tell you what too. I love the like the kind of small town vibes that this kind of film encapsulates. Really, what is it?
Yeah.
How do you pronounce the name of the town?
Punxsutawney.
Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania. So that's you don't hear that name every day.
Yeah, one of the fun little details about like the making of this film is they went to the real Punxsutawney. Apparently the real Punxsutawney is kind of a shithole, or was a shithole back in the 90s.
That's so rude.
I, for all my Punxsutawneyans, I'm kidding. But apparently it wasn't like the stellar, like, location that they wanted. So they did the filming in, I believe, where was it? They filmed in Woodstock, and I believe, as far as I had heard, there wasn't too much of any complaint from Punxsutawney or its people,
Mm-hmm.
So I think, it's all fun and games. It's a great movie.
Here's all you need to know about Punxsutawney. According to Google, their average hotel maintains a 3-star rating at $96 a night.
Three stars, huh?
3 stars.
I
don't mean to shit on the town of Punxsutawney, because they really made it attractive. They really made it attractive in the movie, but I guess it wasn't even Punxsutawney. They filmed it.
It wasn't.
Yeah.
The movie's fun, though. It's directed by the incredible Harold Ramis.
I didn't realize he did National Lampoon.
Of course.
I just
Ramis,
watched those recently.
He is a monster when it comes to old classic, comedy movies, the vacation movies, and all that. Like, and of course, he was a very accomplished actor in his own right. He was Egon in Ghostbusters. Personally, one of my favorite appearances of Harold Ramis was in Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story, where he played Dewey Cox's Orthodox Jewish manager, Mr. L'Chaim, and his son, Dreidel L'Chaim.
Oh, God.
And their business partner, Mr. Mazel Tov.
Why?
Because it's amazing. That movie is incredible.
Oh,
But we're not here to talk about
Dewey Cox.
Walk Hard.
Yeah.
One day we will talk about Walk Hard. I cannot wait for that day, because that movie rocks.
Here's a funny thought. I think I've only seen half of that movie.
Okay, hey, it's more than you saw of Groundhog Day.
Yeah, it was.
So directed by Harold Ramis, written by Danny Rubin and Harold Ramis together. Well, Danny Rubin did his first pass through, and I think Harold Ramis kind of fine-tuned things,
As most movies go, I feel like that's just how it is.
Yeah. It was released on February 12th, 1993. I find that interesting because obviously it came out just after Groundhog Day in 1993, and right before Valentine's Day. And it is, it's definitely kind of a romantic movie, sort of, in an odd way.
Do you know that this was Danny Rubin's maybe first film, or possibly even like in the film and TV world, it was his very first one, I think.
Was it?
Yeah, and then in terms of TV film writing, he only did like a certain number of projects. I think he did more stuff for the stage.
Okay.
In between, it was just Groundhog Day, and then another piece, Hear No Evil, SFW in '94, and then he also co-wrote, or maybe they just remade and adapted his work, an Italian remake of Groundhog Day.
Huh.
Yeah, and then he wrote for the stage Groundhog Day in 2016, or maybe he just credited as writing it, like based
That's
off.
Cool.
Yeah.
I know that he was basically inspired by Anne Rice's The Vampire Lestat, which was like, he thought of like, this an immortal person, if the concept of tomorrow had no meaning, you lived forever, would a person eventually change? And that's basically became like the beating heart of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's interesting. It came out right smack dab between the day it is about and Valentine's Day, and like I said, it has kind of like almost that rom-com feel to it.
I was gonna say, how do you feel about like early '90s, maybe even late '80s romantic comedies? Because there are many.
They are hit and miss because some of them are fantastic, and then a lot of them, I don't know. I feel like ideas in the '80s and even in the '90s were still a little kind of like not.
Around the same time, remember, So I Married an Axe Murderer was released.
Yes, yeah. Oh, I remember. I saw that first on Comedy Central.
I don't know about you.
Like,
I liked that movie.
Was that Mike Myers?
It was. It was.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, you know, I think those movies are fine. You know, rom-coms and such. Listen, I personally, you know, for me, I think like romance should always be like a subsection of like another genre. Because I think it's like if you're literally just gonna focus on romance, you gotta nail it.
I mean, I don't know. Don't talk to Richard Linklater about that because he made 3 films over the course of 2 decades.
Hey, no, but listen, he nailed it. The Before Sunrise,
Yeah.
Before Sunset, all those movies. No, those movies are fantastic.
That's interesting.
So,
I wouldn't have thought that you're a fan of those.
I'm a fan of Richard Linklater.
Gotcha.
So, but let's see. This movie, it's, you know, reasonable length, 101 minutes, budget of between 14.6 to $30 million, and a box office return of 70.9 million. So, you know, a modest success.
I bet you that movie made its worth. I mean, and if not that same amount, 10 times over with like royalties and stuff. Because you said you watched it on TV, and I know I've definitely seen this on TV or any other platform like 1,000 times.
I'm sure it will be playing on Groundhog Day on repeat on one of the channels because that's.
I want to say Danny Rubin probably hasn't done a lot more writing in his career because he's just enjoying the royalties of this film.
Yeah, I mean it's very possible.
Yeah.
Cast pretty fantastic cast. Bill Murray, the indelible Bill Murray, who I know you don't have as much of a love affair with as the rest of the world.
You know, I mentioned that to you in confidence before the podcast, Zachary.
But that's okay. Hey, you're entitled to like or not like anything.
I just feel like outside of like the Wes Anderson films and maybe Garfield, I just haven't fallen in love with him as much as I feel like maybe I should have.
Don't worry, folks at home. I'll teach him.
Oh, yeah, sure.
One film at a time. We got Andy McDowell as Rita Hansen. She does a very good job here. I think, you know, she does a good job bouncing off Bill Murray's snide and smarmy attitude.
I think she's a good kind of force for good as well in terms of like as a taking an active role in shaping who the person he will become, even though it's played off in a way, actually, in probably one of the ways that I appreciate most about this film, which we'll talk about later. But yeah, I liked her in this. She did pretty good. She's actually in this new show that's coming out too. That's on NBC, like Mr. Mayor or something. I think I saw.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. That actually looks really funny with Ted Danson.
Yeah.
But let's see. We've got Chris Elliott as Larry the cameraman.
I've seen him in a lot of... He plays like kind of the same guy in every movie, I feel.
You know, wasn't he... he was in a Scary Movie 2, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think so.
He's the butler in Scary Movie 2, which I feel like for like the millennial demographic, that might be like his most famous role. Just, you know, take my hand, it's my strong hand.
No, I feel like he's been like an active kind of side-ish character. Like, you know his face when you see him in something, and then he gets like a one-liner or two.
Yeah.
You know, like I feel like I've seen him in a good handful of things.
Yeah.
Now I have to Google it.
Yeah, he's in a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
He's that guy who looks like the other guy from the other movie.
Right.
And then
bingo.
And then you look it up and you go, "Oh, it's the same guy."
Yeah. Scary Movie 4, he was also in. I feel like he just he was in Scary Movie 2 and 4. He was in that 70s show briefly. Actually, now that I think about it, maybe I think he looks like another guy.
Well, He did a pretty good job in this movie.
Yeah.
Stephen Tobalowski as Ned Ryerson, who is just the funniest character, I think. One of the funniest characters in this movie. He's definitely got a very unique personality.
I have a 6 Degrees story with Ned Ryerson.
Those are fun.
Versus whereas I'm 1 degree away from him.
Oh shoot!
Yeah,
that's pretty close.
I won't delve in much further than that, but yes, I am 1 degree away from Ned Ryerson.
Sweet.
Or Stephen. Sorry, not the character, but the actor.
Oh, okay. I mean, that's even cooler.
Yeah.
So now we have the older of the Murphy brothers, Brian Doyle Murphy as Buster Green. Brian Doyle Murphy has one of my favorite voices of any actor.
He's the Flying Dutchman in SpongeBob.
Yes, he is the Flying Dutchman in SpongeBob. But I mean, just like anytime I hear his voice, it's, I don't know, it's that raspy voice, but he is just like, he could like narrate my life.
If Morgan Freeman were to turn down any role, I feel like it should be offered to that guy. Just because it would have the same effect on me.
Absolutely. Yes, but yeah, Flying Dutchman, 100% one of his best roles.
There's a handful of iconic voices out there that I feel like some people really can't pinpoint like the face of the character or the actor. Him being one of them. Like I forget the first film I ever saw Brian Doyle Murray in it. And I just heard the voice. I'm like, wait, is that Flying Dutchman? Is that what he looks like? I forget what movie. I think he played a role of some sort of janitor or something. I'm trying to remember what movie this was.
Probably.
Yeah.
I know personally that I think the movie like I've seen the most with him is Christmas Vacation, where he plays Chevy Chase's boss, and he has some very funny lines in that movie. But yeah, Brian Doyle Murray. I feel like I said Murphy earlier. Brian Doyle Murray, terrific. I think honestly every time like that voice has been so like ingrained into my brain that like there's like if someone goes somewhere and comes back, I have been like welcome back.
Yeah. Dude, it's just he's a great guy.
Yeah, like definitely like one of my favorite actors. And then hey, Scooter the Groundhog as Punxsutawney Phil.
They named it and can I tell you something? For some reason, I just felt like this movie was going to have some sort of weird twist, and I realized it doesn't. Where it's like
it kind of has a
the Groundhog was controlling this whole system. We'll talk about the time loop system.
Yes,
but I thought it was going to do some weird shit with the Groundhog at the point of which where Phil takes Phil the Groundhog on a joyride.
Phil, like the Groundhog.
Yeah, like the Groundhog.
But other than that, I mean, Harold Ramis shows up as the neurologist in one scene. That's fun. Michael Shannon
as a boy,
as a young man, this was only his second film role ever,
dude.
And
think of all the things he's done since.
Yeah, his first theatrical role. His first film was a made-for-TV film. So this Groundhog Day is Michael Shannon's first film role.
That's awesome.
Theatrical, that is. And him, Michael Shannon, absolutely fantastic actor.
Yeah, Michael Shannon. Zod from Man of Steel? That Michael Shannon?
Michael Shannon from, most recently, I believe, Knives Out.
Yeah.
Where he was just absolutely hilarious, and of course he was in I believe Boardwalk Empire.
Yeah, you know what role I actually really love of his was in Nocturnal Animals as like the other sheriff. He was nominated for an Academy Award that year. Supporting actor, dude, he should have one. He was I don't even know if he did. Maybe he didn't. But
yeah, Michael Shannon just dude, all around just very good actor, and it's cool that it's fun to see where some of these people get their start.
Yeah.
And this was his. Other than that, I mean, this movie's got a lot of like very small bit roles. There's Nancy Taylor, the woman who Phil hooks up with. There's the piano teacher. There's the two drunk dudes, Gus and Ralph. Doris, the waitress. There's so many people in this movie, but I think the ones we kind of listed are like the key specific ones who are more than like a couple of scenes.
Yeah. So I just feel like it was what the mother, not the mother. Oh, it was like the people in the bed and breakfast that they were staying in. None of these characters, of which their names I know.
Right.
But yeah, they were more reprising all their appearances more often than what most featured background and characters like that do. Yeah.
Well, I think part of it, we'll get into it, but it's that I think the concept lends it to like, you only have a set area you can play in, and you have all these characters. But you know what? Let's dig into.
Yeah, I was gonna say, where do you want to start? The concept?
The concept, yeah, because I think more than anything else, I think more than any of the characters, more than any of the actors or any particular jokes or scenes, the thing that stands out about this movie is it is a time loop, story. It is a guy stuck in an endless time loop and having to figure out what he has to do to break the cycle. So
I want to start and ask you then this very question. What do you think you would do? First of all, what do you think the situation you'd find yourself in? Like, what would that situation be, and what do you think you would do in that situation?
Well, it's funny you ask, because there's the one line I really like from Phil when he's at the bar with Gus and Ralph, and he's saying, I once was in Cancun or whatever, and I met a woman, and we made love under the stars, and blah blah blah, and it's like this wonderful thing. It's like, why couldn't I have that day? And I think the question is like, what are the rules? Because if it's like, clearly the Groundhog Day, the time loop, it's there so that way Phil can stop being a selfish piece of shit.
Mm-hmm.
To make him a more selfless, more friendly, kind person. And if that means that to get stuck in this time loop, I have to be stuck in a very bad, situation for myself. I don't know how I would enjoy that, living that existence over and over and over again. But I mean, kind of like the movie shows, if I was stuck in that situation, I think I'd spend a lot of time just kind of screwing around.
Yeah. Well, I would you get to that point early on, or you feel like you would? I mean, I guess you get all the time ever because you're just only in that situation. Like for me, I know the situation would be something where, I'm faced with all the things I don't want or I don't like. Maybe the reason why I don't like this movie as much as a lot of other people do is I identify with Phil's character. I can be incredibly selfish. I can be, I don't want to say narcissistic, but, just kind of thinking about myself a lot. And when faced with those things, or things that are not that, life could be very hard. So, oh, damn it. This movie's making me get all introspective and shit.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's really interesting about it is like, I definitely think you kind of touch on something that's like, I wrote here, to be fair, a ton of the Punxsutawney townspeople are a tad bit insufferable.
Yeah.
Like Ned Ryerson, I do not blame Phil for punching out Ned Ryerson.
Yeah.
Because like, like I do have a point where I go like, yeah, I can be nice, but there comes a time when it gets a little grating. So maybe I'm the bad guy here. Maybe I need time to maybe I need to be put into a Groundhog Day so that way I come out a better person at the end.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting because like, you talk about like how long it would take me to start screwing around with stuff. Probably as soon as I figured out I was in a time loop.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. This movie kind of plays on sometimes these and we'll get into like other movies of the time loop Groundhog Day genre later, but they kind of play by what I call like zombie movie rules, where it's like there are two different takes on zombie movies. Either people who know what zombies are and respond with their like preconceived notions of how like zombies behave. That's like usually your comedies, your Shaun of the Dead,
your Zombielands.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or you have the ones that take the concept seriously, and
World War Z.
Right. Well, it's where they behave in a way where the concept of a zombie has never happened, and that's not something in the cultural context where they can say like, oh, these are zombies. They don't know that. So like that's like your Dawn of the Dead, Walking Dead, all that stuff, where it's very, people are responding as if they've never heard of what a zombie is.
Right.
So for Groundhog Day and the movies of that type, I feel like it's almost the same thing. It's like you either have movies where people know what a time loop is and understand that they're caught in a time loop and they behave accordingly, or you have movies where they don't, and it takes them a little while to understand that they are in a time loop and things that they do don't matter.
I feel like there's also something that's kind of right in the middle of both of those.
Yeah.
I don't know if we want to go start listing the examples of other time loop films as of yet, but I can think of some that are on our list that I'm not sure if they're aware that the movie Groundhog Day exists in their universe.
Right.
And so, but then they start using the phrases like time loop and like,
right.
They
right. I mean, like,
they go through the motions.
If I look at something like, we're kind of jumping the gun a bit. We'll rein it back to the original movie and then kind of go more full tilt into like the later examples. But like, I look at something like Edge of Tomorrow. Not once in that movie did anyone go like, "Oh, we're stuck in a time loop." They treat it as a very serious situation, and they don't acknowledge, "Hey, I saw this in a movie once," or "I know what this is because this is just a concept that's pretty common in stories that are told."
Right.
They don't really acknowledge it beyond the fact of it's happening.
Right.
And it's more about breaking the cycle. Whereas I look at something like Palm Springs, which just came out most recently, where it's a comedy and the characters are like, "Oh yeah, we're in a time loop. We're in a time loop."
They know they know what it is. It's established, and
it takes maybe like 5 minutes for the main character to like decide like nothing matters and they can have fun.
Yeah.
With that being said, going back to the original concept. Yeah, as soon as I was aware that it was, if I knew what a time loop was and I knew that like nothing mattered, I'd probably start screwing around pretty fast, because it's like, find out like what you can do. It's fun.
I'll tell you what is that the moment where Bill Murray went to the diner and just ordered everything. I said, yeah, that's probably, I think, maybe my first focus is like, okay, I'm going to eat everything without consequences. Fuck yeah, let's do this. Because that is my one weakness is food.
Like, deep throats the white cake.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Lights a cigarette.
Dude, that actually made me feel a little queasy. I was like, don't do it. But that was all right. I say I dislike this movie. There's actually a lot of things about this movie I did like and I did enjoy.
Yeah, it's and it's okay not to like it. To our audience, it's okay if you don't like anything that most people are saying they do like. That's okay. You're entitled to your opinions, and we hope that the things you do like bring you lots of joy, and the things you don't like, that you just choose to not
unless
like
you're
them.
Objectively wrong.
Yeah, it depends. Like, if you're telling me Dark Knight's a bad movie, you're just wrong.
Yeah. But then if I tell you that The Last Jedi is the best movie, you're like, Chris, you're so right.
I do, because that's my opinion, but I understand.
Right.
I understand the people who don't like it, but the reasons they don't like it are stupid. But we're not talking Last Jedi here. I won't do it.
Not yet.
Not yet. We'll get there one day. But yeah, I mean, it's like, you ever play Skyrim or any video game where you
I like that that's the very first game that you wrote down, and then I
mean, I could say Fallout, I could say Grand Theft Auto.
Grand Theft Auto is probably the one where that happens the most. If anything, though, that was the one that I did before I was even playing any of the Elder Scrolls or any of these other open. I feel like
Skyrim is like
RPGs.
Just everyone knows Skyrim because it's been around forever, and Todd Howard just keeps putting it out.
Keep doing it, Todd.
But yeah, you save your game, you go on a killing spree, you steal everything from the store just to see what you can get away with. And you know what? You just reload the save to right before you did it, and things go back to normal.
Yeah, or maybe you keep going on that save level data and
and just live with the consequences.
Just live with the consequences. The choice is up to you.
I know in games I've been like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to pass this dialogue check. I better save. And then I don't pass it, and I go, okay, I'll say something else. And you kind of get a little bit of that in this movie of when he's trying to win over Rita. He'll say something and he'll slip up with something, and then he'll be like, okay, and it'll hard cut to his next attempt at it.
Can I talk to you about that? Because that's actually one of the things I loved about this film was that its use of editing. I mean, the story itself and the concept really catered to that use of editing, where it's almost like the editor and Harold Ramis, they're going just through the cuts and saying, okay, scene 2A is here. All right, so we'll do take 1 first, and then take 2 second, take 3 third, and it just works so perfectly. Versus as a filmmaker, I've experienced trying to look through my different cuts and takes in a regular narrative story. I'm like, oh well, this take has like some of the things I want, but this other take has like the other things I want, and I just can't find that perfect balance. Versus like they don't need to worry about any of this; they could just use literally everything because they're just trying to put in all the new stuff that they were doing to correct themselves, and it's fantastic. Mm-hmm. I really, really enjoyed that part, and they did not even go through any of the minutia of like the setup in the beginning, like they did for some of the scenes, but for anything they were trying to show, like how he was going to redo it next, like they just cut straight to that, and it was perfect. It worked so well.
Yeah, and I mean, it almost it kind of reminds me in what's the movie American Psycho, how they would film a scene of Willem Dafoe in questioning Christian Bale, Patrick Bateman, one take where he was suspecting Christian Bale's character, one take where he didn't suspect him, and one take where he wasn't sure.
So I've never seen the film, another one.
Oh my God.
I know, but I've watched so many scenes, and like I read about that actually super recently, and that they edited all 3 pieces together.
Yeah, they basically spliced them so that way it's meant to like, mess you up.
That's really cool. Super interesting.
Yeah, and so then like, there's another movie, I forget what the other movie was, where they do something similar like that, but with Groundhog Day, all these cuts, I think it's mainly played for laughs, but I think it's a really funny trick they do. I think of like all the different scenes at Gobbler's Knob where they go to cover the actual event, and I go like, I wonder if that was all just filmed like on the same day. They basically get the crowd all riled up, and they're like, all right, we're going to shoot the first one. Then the day he figures out that he's in a time loop. This is like the one where he's just given up on life.
No, they definitely had all those people as extras. They did not have just filmed the event like that. Come on.
No. I don't mean like they filmed the actual Groundhog Day, but more of like that they filmed all those takes on the same day.
You know what? Like I think all the wides, maybe. All the wides stuff, I can imagine that.
That's a lot of extras that you gotta pay to keep coming back over and over and over again.
I feel like on days like I feel like on shoots like that where they just have maybe like a couple hundred people, which I mean I think it was probably a couple hundred. I don't remember necessarily.
It's a good bit.
Yeah, definitely feel like that's maybe like a week's worth of shooting. I could be terribly wrong, but I'm going to stick with that number.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, I think, as the movie goes on, we see like kind of like Phil's different phases. I kind of mentioned in my notes, like he goes through these phases that I feel like most people in these movies go through. Not most of these movies, like the comedy ones.
Mm-hmm.
But, he has his introduction phase. I feel like that's when everyone gets, where they get into the time loop. They have to figure out what's going on, what the rules are and stuff. Then he has his fun phase of where he's just relishing the fact that there's no consequences. That's when, he's eating everything. He's, sleeping with different women, dressing up like a cowboy to go to the movies and stuff.
I thought that was awesome.
And then, I mean, there is kind of like a moral question that, other movies of this genre definitely examine a little more closely. But like, is there a moral question of like, yeah, you're just kind of, manipulating these people into doing what you want, including like sex?
Well, that's why I liked where they went with, in terms of Andy McDowell's character, like in that relationship, how she was the foil to that, because, he tried it to do, I want to say there's 3 specific ways where he tried in seducing her and getting what he wanted, like he did with all these other people.
I think there's like probably close to 10, because that whole montage where she's slapping him in the face.
Yeah, but it's like, I want to say there's like 3 super identifiable ones where, at least that stood out to me, where it was the very first where he was kind of doing super well all day and being exactly what she wanted him to be. And then by the very end, she's like, oh, dude, you are like so hollow that you just did all this in an attempt to be with me. And that's so disingenuous, and get out of my sight, or, whatever it was.
Yeah, she definitely, she sees through the bullshit.
Exactly. Versus there was another time where he was just being like too much. It's to the point where he was off-putting her in so many
it's
different
like,
instances. And
it's like he like falls in the snow with her, and he's like inching closer to her. And
it's like super uncomfortable and weird, and it's like, oh my, well, and it shows that kind of, I mean, one, his techniques and everything, and but also the way that she responds to each of these. I think it also it's pissing him off in a way too, that she's not being as predictable as maybe everyone else is, like. Which is great, honestly, in terms of, how they included the romantic comedy aspect and everything like that. I think that they worked that in rather well, because she wasn't. It's just she wasn't just a carbon copy of all these other people.
Right, yeah, she wasn't an easy prize to win. She, it was, she's more than just,
And they did it very intelligently by making him kind of jump through all these hoops in a way, in terms of how it was organized in the story, I feel. There was, I guess the third most stand-up performance is probably like the final one, where it's just he would, instead of trying to focus on her, he'd focus on everything else, and then she would see him doing such good in the world. That actually made her the most happy, and
she likes him for because
for his actions,
becomes exactly. But yeah, so then after the fun phase, it's basically right when he gets when he realizes that he's not going to be able just to ease his way into Rita's bed. Is the existential nightmare phase. Oh, wait, hold on. No, I just wanted to mention in passing, when he's on one of his dates with Rita, they go to this restaurant, and the size of the beers in this restaurant are so big. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but there's like, they're in a restaurant, they're just talking, but you see a waitress walking in the back, and she's just these massive, giant mugs of beer.
I don't know if I caught that. I feel it was probably a little obvious, but now that I think about it, I'm not sure if I got that. Were they like Steins almost?
No, I mean they were like big,
like glass,
big like glass mugs, but like just huge. Maybe it was a trick of the camera or something, but it was one of those things I'm watching and I'm like, God dang, like that's a big old beer.
What are they called? There's like a term for them.
Like a
beer mug, or maybe it's just called a beer mug.
Like a like a pint or whatever.
Something like
it's more than a pint, obviously.
Yeah.
Das Boot.
Yeah, I'm thinking of like the boots in my head, but I know that's not necessarily what you're talking about.
Yeah, they're just real big beers. I was like that's a lot of beer. For one single container of beverage.
I don't know. Have you been to some of these places now? I
haven't been to any places in like over a year.
I mean, like recently, all right. Recently is also not a good word. Since you've been able to consume alcohol, Zach, I feel like if we go anywhere, they're like, oh, do you want like the 16 ounce, the 8 ounce, or do you want the 25 ounces of alcohol that'll make you bloated? Whatever it is.
I won't say where and when, but one time me and a friend went to a bar and just drank out of pitchers.
Oh, where? I do want to know where. That's awesome. No. Tell me after the show.
Yes, I will. But okay, so moving from the fun phase, we have the existential nightmare phase, and that's when things get dark. Like very dark.
Yeah.
To all of our listeners, I'll issue a very, a minor trigger warning, for people who are more, sensitive to this kind of stuff. But Phil gets to a point when he doesn't see a light at the end of the tunnel.
I think you put it to me in a very, I guess, a rather nice way that, like, he couldn't rid himself from being the person that he was, and it was so agonizing for him that he just decided he'd rather take his own life.
Well, I think it's not necessarily that he couldn't do it, is that he didn't want to.
Yeah, excuse me, he didn't want to.
Yeah, and so he would rather kill himself repeatedly than accept that maybe there's something wrong with him.
That being said, to anybody looking for help, you can always find help. There are resources you make contact, and people willing to listen to your problems and help you find rather helpful solutions.
Yes, and as this movie demonstrates, it's not the answer to anything, because it doesn't get him anywhere, and unfortunately, unlike Phil, for everyone else, it's more of a permanent thing. But I think this movie, it doesn't dwell on the darkness too much. I think most of it it's played for laughs, I think, which I guess is kind of awkward. But
I guess in today's context, I would consider that incredibly not. It's just not suitable for the audience of today. Versus, what is this, 20, almost 30 years ago? Like, people were a little more willing to watch that. It just maybe they didn't talk about it as much.
Context, yeah, I think given the context that he is specifically in a world where it doesn't matter because he'll just wake up, and he knows he'll just wake up.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I think that's the only buffer where you're like, it stops it from being too horrifying.
Right.
And I mean, like, again, they do kind of play it for laughs. There's the whole thing where he steals Punxsutawney Phil, and he drives off the cliff, and then the car crashes, and Larry's like, oh, he might be okay, and then it explodes.
Yeah.
Like that stuff. But, like, the toaster in the bathtub, that one's pretty dark.
Yeah.
Like, all the power goes out, and, like, everyone in the dining room is like, holy shit. Like, yeah, you're like, ugh, it's a little intense.
Yeah, or even, like, when he jumped off and they had to look at him, and that, I just feel like at some point I'm like, oh,
my problem with that scene where he jumps off the building is it's a stuntman jump, where, like, he does the whole kind of, like, the flip over, so he lands on his back, whatever, like, mat they had laid out for him, or giant balloon to catch him.
Whatever it is, it's just the scene following is just, I don't want to say ridiculous, but it's like, oh god, like,
yeah. So there, yeah. So don't kill yourself. And moving on, the progress phase. So he finally acknowledges that he's not going to just like,
waste his time. I actually
he's
like
not going
this
to
a
waste his
lot.
time.
He makes a lot of fun progressions, and we get some great moments like the whole piano scene.
I love the scene when he's like I got $1,000, and she just kicks the kid out.
Yeah, and I like where it leads him to. Like that moment specifically, because you think about it, he becomes this woman's student for just a day, and so anything that he does, he retains, but anybody else forgets, to the point where at the very end of the film, he gets like this, I don't want to call it a piano recital or whatever, but he's performing, right. And then the teacher's like, "That's my student." And you've only known him for maybe several hours, lady.
well,
how are you responsible for all of his piano training? At least to your knowledge,
he gave her $1,000.
Yeah,
but I think Harold Ramis has actually said that by his calculation, Phil would have had to have been in that world for like 10 years to get as good as he was when they show him playing at the big party. So like, he could have been in there for, decades.
That's true. Oh man,
it's kind of horrifying.
That is horrifying.
It's like, I like what Phil says. He says maybe the real God uses tricks. Maybe he's not omnipotent. He's just been around long enough to know everything.
Yeah.
Or it's just
one of those things.
It's one of those things, whether or not, you question God because you can't die and you're trapped in an unending nightmare.
Well, you don't even get that explanation, and that's the beauty of it.
Yeah. It is just a self-contained thing. Phil investing himself in saving the old man's life, but then like just no matter what he does, he can't stop the man from dying.
Oh, that breaks my heart.
Yeah, it's kind of tragic. It's like no matter how much he betters himself, he can't fix everything.
Yeah.
Some things are just meant to happen.
Oh, it's like no matter how many times he saves the kid from falling off the tree, the kid will never thank him.
I love that. He's like, "You're gonna thank me. You're gonna thank me."
But it's just it's nice to still see him do those things, regardless of him. In the end, it's just kind of what he's getting out of it more is than for himself. Funny enough, and so he'll still make sure the kid's fine. He'll still be with the grandfather. The grandfather. He's kind of homeless. Yeah. I don't know if he has kids or a family. They didn't tell us, and I'm not going to assume.
Yeah, the old man. Yeah, he's he finds
he does call him Papa at one time, right? Like or
so.
Dad or whatever it is.
He finds fulfillment in helping people and being selfless, and that's kind of like the moral of the movie is that being selfless and helping people is more fulfilling than any material want, because his big like material want at the beginning is that he wants to be a national anchor or weatherman.
Not very different from that of Ron Burgundy.
Yeah.
And
I know I've met one of the regular like NBC nightly news like national news contributors, Kerry Sanders.
Oh really?
And he's a very nice guy. He's a friend of a family friend of one of our friends from our circle of friends, and I've had the pleasure of meeting him. He's nice, so I don't believe that all these anchors behind the scenes are actually horrible people. I'm sure they're all very nice people.
At least we'd like to think that.
Well, I do think it. Tune in next week for our review of
local news people.
No, I was gonna say what's the one with Jake Gyllenhaal?
You mean
Nightcrawler?
Nightcrawler. Actually,
God.
that is an episode we will be doing in the future. So please do tune in for that. That is a fantastic movie.
That's maybe my favorite Jake Gyllenhaal movie.
You know what? It might be one of mine as well. Like I did mention Nocturnal Animals earlier. That is also one of my favorite Jake Gyllenhaal
that
movies.
One, Enemy. This isn't the Jake Gyllenhaal podcast. What are we doing?
We tune in next time for the Script or Screen offshoot subgenre podcast. Jake Gyllenhaal or Screen. We will still be your hosts, and you will still be the listeners. Check us out there as well.
Right. But yeah, so Groundhog Day. It's a fun movie, fantastic, and probably the other, like I said, the thing that people know the most about it is that it is a time loop movie. And as time has gone on, we have gotten more movies of that, like, genre, time loop movies.
Yeah.
To the point that, like...
It's its own subgenre.
Yeah, like you can... Like, if someone said, oh, well, what's Edge of Tomorrow? I'd say, oh, it's sci-fi action Groundhog Day.
Actually, so I think about Edge of Tomorrow. I actually really liked Edge of Tomorrow a lot when I first saw it. Also known as Live, Die, Repeat if you're their marketing team.
Oh my god,
for whatever reason.
I hate that so much.
I never got that.
It's because it was the tagline for the movie, and they put it so big on the poster that people thought it was the title.
Oh god.
Yeah, it's one of the dumbest things ever, I think, in film history.
But one of the things I liked about Live, Die, Repeat, I don't want to say that.
Don't call it that.
Live
Edge of Tomorrow.
Edge of Tomorrow. One of the things I liked about that, I don't think that was the first time. That was definitely not the first time I was introduced into time loops, but it's the one that's probably most memorable. Like, if someone were to tell me about time loops, I would think that over Groundhog Day for sure.
Right. Okay.
It's actually based off of a
manga, right?
Well, actually, the manga is based off of a Japanese novel, a light novel.
And I know the original name is just as kind of like bad.
It's ridiculous.
All you need is kill.
Like what? All you need is kill. How edgy does that sound?
I think it's like one of those things where I think, like, maybe when translating English and Japanese, you go like, what's the opposite of love? Kill. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I love that. Like,
all you need is kill became Edge of Tomorrow became Live, Die, Repeat.
Yeah.
Edge of Tomorrow.
I think that film came out. I don't know which came first. Edge of Tomorrow or Oblivion. I think Oblivion came out. In terms of Tom Cruise sci-fi movies, I think the reason why I saw Edge of Tomorrow is because I liked Oblivion.
It came out 1 year after Oblivion.
Oh, okay, yeah. I think I was like, okay, I'll give this other one a shot. I liked it, but there's newer ones that are way more interesting in how they use the formula. I feel like they're a little more entertaining. Like I think Edge of Tomorrow really did, like, it fulfilled the sci-fi need and some of the action need. But then we were kind of graced with a film like Happy Death Day.
Happy Death Day, yeah. So that's a very cool concept. What's the actress name? Jessica Roth. She is like a college student, and she is killed on her birthday by a masked killer, and then proceeds to wake up again and again and again with, on the same day where she's being killed. So it becomes Groundhog Day, but figuring out who your murderer is.
Like, that is a super cool concept. I remember when we got the trailer, I was like, dude, I'm oddly, like, super into this horror/comedy concept.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just feel like it was a good idea.
That one actually had a sequel, Happy Death Day 2U.
That one came out a year ago, I think.
I think so. Yeah.
Or am I wrong?
I haven't seen them because it was one of those things where I was like, I would go watch that. I'm not a horror fan, but
neither am I.
I would go watch that just because concept alone.
It just looked entertaining.
There's other interesting ones. So 2011 gave us Source Code, which in and of itself is not a time loop movie, but it's a cool. I remember the movie. I vaguely remember the movie sucking, but the concept was cool. Where it's like a person. There's a bombing on a train, and this person has to basically relive the events of that day over and over again until he figures out who is responsible for the bombing.
You know, we can discuss more of that, and audiences can listen to more of that on our exclusive Jake Gyllenhaal podcast, Jake Gyllenhaal or Screen.
I was waiting for the right moment to make another segue. Oh my god. But seriously, he's a great actor.
There's this list you showed me on Wikipedia. It says like films about time loops. And not all of them are explicitly time loops. Some of them kind of include time travel and just people going through same events.
Yeah, like
one of them I saw was About Time, which is more of a time travel 100% movie.
Not a time. Yeah, it's just a time travel.
One of my more favorite, if that's a phrase, grammatically correct, more favorite films is About Time. I do like that movie. I think I mentioned that on the show before.
I've seen better from Donald Gleason and Rachel McAdams.
Gleason. It's Donal. He said many. You sounded like you said Donald. Domhnall
Gleason.
He pronounces it Donal.
Yes.
Which I learned in a Star Wars interview.
Donal and Gooby. But yeah, and then on the that's Gooby, yeah. That's for the meme lords out there.
Oh god.
Gooby, please. On the Netflix side of things, I have not watched this yet. I only know of its existence, and I know we're really nailing it with the with doing the hard work on these titles. But Russian Doll, which was a 2019 Netflix series starring Natasha Lyonne, and that one I think very much it's a time loop. She's repeating the same day over and over again. I don't know specifically if it's like a crime thing or if it's more of just like what
the genre says is. It's a comedy drama.
Okay.
So if that's insightful at all.
We will get into like the allure of this particular genre in a minute, but a lot of these are comedies, I think, for a very good reason. The last one I want to talk about, 2020's Palm Springs.
That was I don't want to say it was a surprise, because I think it kind of came out in the middle of the pandemic, but it was also seen or distributed, screened, at least I think at Sundance that year, and so it got some like praise.
I really liked Palm Springs. Andy Samberg, Kristen Milioti, very very good actors. A lot of solid comedy chops on the two of them.
Oh, and don't forget about one J.K. Simmons.
J.K. Simmons, and that's where this movie, it kind of they all plant their flags on like, we're the sci-fi one, we're the horror one. This one is we're the one with multiple people stuck in the time loop, and that's really cool because like you get these things where it's like spoilers for the movie, but because multiple J.K. Simmons and Andy Samberg and Kristen Milioti are all stuck in the time loop, J.K. Simmons' character, he's off doing his own thing. He wakes up somewhere else because he didn't, he woke up in a different location at the start of his day.
Lucky for him, he wakes up like at home in his house.
Yeah, exactly, on a very good day. But just, probably because every so often it pisses him off, the whole idea that he's stuck in this, that every so often he just goes and just tries to kill Andy Samberg's character. And so it's this fun kind of thing where it's like you could just be going about your day in your Groundhog Day time loop, doing whatever you're doing for that day, and randomly a guy's gonna show up and just start shooting you with arrows.
I'll tell you what, actually, I thought that the trailers had faked us out for a moment, because when his character was first introduced, more like his body and not his face, it's when Andy Samberg's like running from him and gets shot with an arrow. And I'm like, oh wait, Is this movie actually like a horror film? And I was delightfully surprised that it wasn't. And also, I forget the resolution. Did J.K. Simmons ever get out of the time loop? Spoiler alert, I guess.
Yeah, spoiler alert. It is heavily implied by a mid-credit scene that he does.
Okay, because I want to say, like, I know the other two got out before him, I think, is what happened.
Yeah.
And so my thought is, what if they went to his home and tried to see him the day after? Would he be there? Would he not? I forget how it ended, or how it would
well,
work.
I think it's like once you break out of the time loop, you're broken out, and like everyone else kind of just responds accordingly. Like the only one who's like stuck repeating it is just you, the subject.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess
it's, if you haven't seen it and we haven't ruined it for you, go watch Palm Springs. I think it's probably the best. It's the best post Groundhog Day movie I've seen.
It's distributed by Hulu, so if you have a subscription, which
yeah.
are rather cheap, I want to add. I think Hulu subscriptions start at like $5 or something like that.
Yeah, but at that point you're paying to have ads, and I just don't understand that.
But here's the thing: the ads only appear before the movie and at the end of the movie, never in the middle.
Yeah,
and get the fuck out of here. And then if you get the TV version, the thing is, I used to pay for the non-ad version, and then I got like the deal where the ad version was like $1, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll do the ad for $1. Like, that's awesome.
We are not sponsored by Hulu, but Hulu, come on, hit us up. What are you doing?
Funny enough, I would actually love it if HBO Max would sponsor us, but at the same time, integrity. You feel?
Yeah.
I would have liked it prior to maybe a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. And then the only other movie I wanted to mention, and it's not even a time loop movie, is Doctor Strange, only because it's got a scene, and that is toward the end of the movie where Doctor Strange confronts Dormammu, who is like this just
entity,
otherworldly entity that is infinitely more powerful than him, but has no concept of time, and thus gets trapped in a time loop where basically he uses the concept of Groundhog Day almost like a weapon.
It's kind of awesome.
Yeah, no, I remember being in the theater when that seeing that for the first time, being like, I can't believe this is happening.
You know, it's especially crazy.
Yeah,
well, you go ahead first. I don't want to...
Oh no, I was just gonna say, just as a comic book fan, knowing Dormammu being the big threat that he is, seeing him basically be defeated like that, I was like, that's kind of amazing.
My thought is like, and this is not for this show at all, but we still haven't gotten a follow-up, our direct follow-up to Doctor Strange. It's been years, and now we get Multiverse of Madness as Doctor Strange 2, and I feel like so much has happened in between. I would have loved to see... I don't know. It's just weird.
It's going to be interesting.
They're jumping straight to that.
Things with WandaVision are shaken up, so it's going to be interesting to see how it all ties together. But this isn't the Marvel or Screen. This is Groundhog's or Screen.
New year, same jokes, right here on the podcast.
We'll never
listeners.
Change. Not even if we're in a time loop. We'll always be the same.
I agree.
So, Chris, let me ask you.
Go for it.
Let me ask you a question.
Ask.
Why is this such a good genre? Why do so many people mine this genre for so many this concept for so many different genres?
I honestly feel like it just lends itself. It's such a simple concept when you think about it. I mean, it's simple enough if you keep it simple, like Groundhog Day. Or even, I guess, like...
Imagine that.
Like Palm Springs, in a way. You know, the whole the time loop thing. If you don't put that much focus to it, not that, all films need to just take away their concepts and just ignore them and not make them important if their concept is the very thing that holds the integrity of the film together. But if you can place yourself in a world where you have this device and just... your characters interact in a certain way, you can get some great results. Like, you could have a sci-fi action in this world, and what could that be like? You could try to do, like, 20th century Paris. Like, it could be applied to so many different things, whether you get the same results or different results. When I think of, like, I said 20th century Paris, I want to take it back, like, maybe 19th century America. Imagine, like, witch trials. Like... In this time loop, like, people think these people are crazy, trying to explain that. I don't know. Maybe they'll do an Outlander episode about that or something.
Yeah.
Um,
The and almost to prove your point, and this is actually a funny thing in that this is where the concept goes very poorly. There was an anime out of Japan, go figure, right? Called The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya. My fellow anime fans, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's the Endless 8 arc, which was an arc in the, I believe Haruhi is based off like light novels, like, books and stuff. But it was the characters stuck in a time
all
loop.
I need is kill.
Except the best part is they never acknowledge that it's a time loop. Like, they kind of start catching on that it's a time loop. Anyway, it was a total massive disaster for the anime, and because every episode, they ran it for 8 episodes, and every episode was exactly the same with just like different camera angles and stuff, and only every so often having a character kind of allude to something. And it apparently tore the fan base into smithereens.
Jesus.
So there's a way to do it wrong.
Okay, I can see that. Listen, I've always said, and you can quote me by this, and this is something that I live by. Never, ever do anything to anybody ever, no matter. I'm quoting The Office at this point, Zach.
Okay.
Well, no,
see, you've caught me unawares because I don't watch The Office.
like, how for the most viewed show of all 2020, streamed, if you will.
I have seen episodes. I just never really committed to watching the whole thing. I got to a moment where I was like, I get it. I get the joke.
It's fine. But what I mean to say is, story is king. Characters are king or queen or whatever you want me to say.
Yes.
And you just got to focus as if you get that right, your execution will follow. If you're really into it, don't take shortcuts. I think it's really easy to, I say this, it might not be easy, but if there's enough care and thought put into those aspects, and if you really want to be the kind of person that uses a concept as your starting point, which is fine, just don't be sucky about it.
Yeah, you go.
Don't take shortcuts.
Go all or you go home.
Yeah, don't take shortcuts. Take advice, and really, look to see what works. Look to see what doesn't work. And
I think it extends to really just every aspect of a concept like this, because it's you look at even minor characters, how different things go when a character does one thing instead of another, or talks to one person, or punches a character out.
I was
gonna say,
like Ned, you saw when the same kind of energy was reciprocated toward him, and how he reacted. It was just different enough that it was perfect. It's oh, I gotta go. Bye.
Yeah.
Oh, thank God for Bill Murray.
And I think this concept, it's a gold mine for for comedy. I think you can do a ton of funny things with just the idea of having someone basically have a big sandbox to play in.
Yeah.
You can get really deep into a lot of character introspection.
Which they did.
Yeah, and a character can't run away from it. A character can't say, I'm just not going to play by the rules, because they'll just keep waking up.
I don't know. I don't know if you saw in your reading, or in the reading of the research for this making of this film, but apparently Bill Murray and Harold Ramis, they kind of butted heads on some bits, because Harold Ramis really wanted to kind of focus on the comedy romance aspect a little more than Bill Murray said that this could be a lot more contemplating. This will provoke thoughts and things like that. And I think we got the happy medium.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think it walks a fine line, and the movie's better for it. there are like if I look at like something like Palm Springs, there are points where they do ruminate on like the idea of being stuck in a time loop and the merits that it has, and also like why, you know, you couldn't just, you know, even if you were just comfortable living in the same day over and over again, like Andy Samberg's character in that movie, he's basically just given up on moving on, and he just kind of takes it one day at a time.
Mm-hmm.
I think for that, a situation like that, you know, one can find comfort in that, but like eventually you want to move on, and you know, you want to grow past that one moment.
Yeah, I agree. There's definitely, you can only stay trapped for so long. We're human beings. Now, imagine a dog in the same situation every day.
Oh my god.
Like
that's just dogs.
That's the thing. I wonder.
My dog Rosie wakes up every morning. She goes on a walk. She takes a shit in someone's yard. She comes home. She eats her breakfast. She gets head scratches and face scratches and butt scratches before I leave for work. And then when I come home, she dances around like a maniac.
So, and she does that 5 days a week. And then on Saturday and Sunday, she just does it while you're at home.
Exactly.
So, you know, it's funny. I say this as I scratch the head of my lovely little boy right next to me. But I feel so bad because in the last 2 weeks, I haven't been able to take Iggy to the park, which we have in our community, because he just had a little tummy ache, and we don't want other dogs to make him uncomfortable when he's having such a hard time pooping as is right now. You know,
poor pig.
I know it's awful, but I think about it like that is his life. Imagine how short this movie would be if it's just the same thing over and over and over again.
It would be Endless 8 from Haruhi Suzumiya.
All right, so I'm going to pitch to Sony Pictures Animation, responsible for Secret Life of Dogs, I think. Am I correct? A third
Probably.
in the entry in the franchise, the Secret Life of Dogs franchise. Time Loop, Life of Dogs.
Secret Dogs.
Who makes that? Is it
is that DreamWorks?
I don't think it's DreamWorks. I think it's Sony Pictures Animation.
I believe you.
Okay, I believe you. It's Illumination. It's from Universal, the Minion people.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Oh God.
I don't know about you. The first Despicable Me was funny. The first one.
Sure. Right. Yeah. When the concept was novel.
Yeah.
And they said, "Hey, this is a good concept. We can just, milk it for all it's worth."
Yeah. And then they did.
And the world's better for it? I don't know.
That's all I got.
You know what? The one thing I don't want to see, though, is I don't want to see this genre explode. Like, I'm happy that every so often we get a little, oh, it's a time loop movie. It's another Groundhog Day. Mm-hmm. It's fun, There's
still enough people out here that are just upset that we get things like these as often as we do already, though.
Yeah, I mean,
there'll always be people that
part of me goes, I totally understand. It is probably there's probably some executive in some boardroom going, well, it's Groundhog Day, but it's a holiday movie. It's Groundhog Day.
Meddling Incorporated Pictures was just saying, executive meddler over there was just telling his board last week that they have this great formula and they're going to use it and make millions of $1 million dues.
Yeah, and this executive meddler, I'm sure they have a list of okay, we could just do Groundhog Day, but it's a war movie. We'll make a mint, and then we'll do the next thing. I don't want that. I like when every so often we get one. I can understand people not liking it because it is literally just taking the exact same concept and having it repeat on, hey, kind of like Groundhog Day, but having it repeat on a bunch of different genres.
Listen, as long as it's a good movie, I'm not gonna knock it.
I always urge people, be creative. Try to go for something you haven't seen before, because you never know. Obviously, this whole concept came. Time loops existed before Groundhog Day, but all it took was one person saying, "Well, what if someone who is immortal if you were immortal, if nothing you did mattered, how would that change? How would that change you as a person if you couldn't die and you lived forever? And I think it's like in asking those questions, you get to these cool concepts and, just willy-nilly make a new subgenre of film.
You know what day I wouldn't want to relive every day, now that I think about it? Is like the day of recording our very first podcast.
Oh, no.
Imagine if we had to relive that day every day.
That's not a...
I think at one point I'd just be screaming into the microphone, just like, I don't want to do it because it'll just make the audio levels go insane and Billy will kill me.
That's back when I had my like headset that was a terrible microphone to use.
Still, I don't know if I could relive that day. I'm glad we did it, but I'm glad it's over. Or maybe we would just get so good at talking about that subject that we could, instead of knocking it out in 2.5 hours, we can do it in like 30 minutes.
And then we'll go like, oh gosh, I wonder how Tenet's gonna be. I bet it lives up to all of my expectations. I definitely won't be horribly disappointed by this movie.
Oh God.
Back when we were innocent and unspoiled.
I know. Like the little boys we are.
But that's just the way it is. Hey, the whole point of this whole thing is that we come out a better person on the other side.
I'll tell you what. I think I came out of this session with a new appreciation for this movie.
Good.
And I think I liked it a little more now that we've discussed it versus me and my thoughts and my viewing earlier. I feel better about it.
Sometimes it helps to ruminate on things, and I'm glad that I was able to help you kind of shed some new light on.
We could talk it out.
And now we're gonna walk it out.
Funny enough, before we leave, I did want to mention, I did say something about Bill Murray earlier, maybe that most people wouldn't agree with. But I realized he's actually coming out, or he did come out with this film done by Sofia Coppola that I've been interested in watching, On the Rocks, starring also Rashida Jones. Looks very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I think it came on Apple TV Plus or something like that.
He and Sofia Coppola have history. She did
Lost in Translation. Yeah, which actually I also hear is a really good movie.
Absolutely, it is.
The context of which I just said that should clue you in on my relationship with that movie.
On the Rocks. That's the one with Rashida Jones, isn't it?
I just said Rashida Jones.
I wasn't listening. I was too busy looking at Bill Murray's filmography.
Or I like Bill Murray and Osmosis Jones as well.
You know what movie I like with Bill Murray? Osmosis Jones. Folks, it's been a blast talking about this stuff with you, listening to us. I guess, Chris, do you have anything you want to sign off with? Anything you want to tell the good folks at home?
You know what movie I really like with Bill Murray? Osmosis Jones.
Oh my God. Tune in next week for Osmosis Jones or Screen.
I really like Osmosis Jones. Anyways, I don't want to get wrapped up in my own time loop. Remember, you lovely listeners, you can find more of Scripture Screen on our website, www.scripturescreen.com or anchor.fm /Scripture Screen. You can check out all of our past episodes of the podcast. You can find your favorite platforms to listen to. And if you haven't already, give us a like on your favorite platform. Leave us a review. What do you think about Scripture Screen? Make sure you comment
on our videos on YouTube. Leave us, reviews on all of our social medias, or comment on our posts like on Instagram or Facebook. Tell us what you think of Osmosis Jones.
You know what movie I really like?
Is it Osmosis Jones?
It's Groundhog Day. Guys, come on. Remember, like, follow, share with your friends, and we will see you on the next episode of Scripture Screen.
Bye.